Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another. Uh, welcome back to Michael Reed's. Sorry, I apologize. I'm just getting everything set up at the moment. I was a little bit unprepared, but wherever you are at this moment, I invite you to pause, take a breath, and allow yourself to fully arrive here. I need to take that advice myself. Leaving behind the distractions of the day so that you can engage with something deeper, something more intentional. That's what we aim to do on this channel. Um, Tonight, we do continue our journey through Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, moving now into Book 8, a section that feels more urgent, more direct, and in many ways more confronting than what we've explored before. In this part of his writing, Marcus is not speaking gently to himself, nor is he attempting to soften reality. Instead, he is sharpening his own awareness, reminding himself that time is limited and that clarity must be chosen deliberately each day. This is not philosophy designed to comfort you. It is philosophy intended to refine you. It strips away illusion, it removes the necessary thought, and calls you to act in alignment with what truly matters. So, before we go any further, if you are someone who is committed to growth, to self discipline, and to becoming stronger in both mind and character, then take a moment now to support what we are building here on Michael Reads. Like this stream, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who would benefit from grounding themselves in these ideas. Do not wait until later. Take that step now, because this is not about passive listening, it's about active participation in a way of thinking that has the power to reshape how you live. So, as we move into Book 8, Marcus begins by confronting one of the most common human tendencies, which is the habit of speaking about virtue without embodying it. He reminds himself that there is no value in endlessly discussing what a good person should be if those ideas are never translated into action. And in doing so, he forces a simple but uncomfortable truth into the open. Knowing is not enough. It is easy to reflect, to analyze, and to form intentions about the kind of person we want to become, yet transformation only occurs when those intentions are followed by consistent behavior. Marcus is calling himself out of hesitation and into action, urging himself to stop delaying the process of becoming who he already knows he could be. This leads naturally into one of the central themes of this book, which is the power of the mind to shape experience. Marcus reminds himself that external events are not inherently disturbing. Rather, it is the judgment we attach to those events that creates emotional disruption. When something challenging happens, the instinctive reaction may be frustration or resistance. Yet he highlights that the reaction is not inevitable. It is chosen, often unconsciously, through interpretation. By recognizing this, a new level of control becomes available. If judgment creates suffering, then awareness has the ability to dissolve it. This does not mean ignoring reality, but rather seeing it clearly without layering unnecessary emotion on top of it. In this way, the mind becomes not a source of disturbance, but a tool for stability. Alongside this, Marcus returns to the idea of simplicity, urging himself to strip away what is excessive and unnecessary. Much of what burdens us in life does not come from essential responsibilities, but from optional distractions, overthinking, and misplaced attention. By removing what does not serve a meaningful purpose, clarity begins to emerge, and with that clarity comes a greater sense of direction. Another key element of this book is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Marcus reflects on the nature of the world, recognizing that many things unfold according to forces far beyond individual influence. Fighting against these realities only creates resistance, whereas accepting them allows energy to be directed toward what can actually be shaped. This is not passive resignation, but active alignment, where focus is placed on thoughts, actions, and responses rather than external outcomes. Throughout Book 8, there is also strong emphasis on discipline, particularly in the realm of thought and behavior. Marcus holds himself accountable, reminding himself not to complain, not to become distracted, and not to drift into laziness or indulgence. He understands that character is not built in moments of visibility, but in the quiet, unseen decisions made consistently over time. Underlying all this is a subtle but powerful awareness of morality. Marcus reflects on the brevity of life, not as a source of fear, but as a source of clarity. When time is recognized as limited, it becomes more valuable, and the urgency to live with purpose becomes stronger. Delaying action, holding back effort, or avoiding responsibility begins to feel less justifiable when viewed through a lens. Finally, Marcus brings himself back to the idea of living in accordance with nature, which for him means fulfilling the role of being rational, social, and purposeful. To act against this nature is to create inner conflict, whereas aligning with it brings a sense of order and stability. In this way, living well is not about achieving something external, but about returning to what is already inherent within us. And don't forget, people, Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, so he was a great leader. And if this book, meditation, is how he conducted his life, if we did that, we're as good as emperors. So now we get into Book 8. If you could just sit back and relax, and as we go through this. If you have truly seen where the matter lies, throw away the thought of how you shall seem to others, and be content that you shall live the rest of your life in such a wise way as your nature wills. Observe then what it wills, and let nothing else distract you. You have had experience of many wanderings and haven't found happiness there. Not in conclusions, not in wealth, not in reputation, not in enjoyment, not anywhere. Where is it then? In doing what man's nature requires. How then shall a man do this? By the principles which affect his acts. What principles? Those which relate to good and bad, the belief that there is nothing good for man which does not make him just, temperate, manly, free, and that there is nothing bad which does not do the contrary to what has been mentioned. On the occasion of every act, ask yourself, how is this with respect to me? Will I regret it? A little time and I am dead, and all is gone. What more do I seek, if what I am now doing is work of an intelligent living being and a social being, and one who is under the law with God? Alexander and Gaius and Pompeius, what are they in comparison to Diogenes and Heraclitus and Socrates? They were acquainted with things and their causes and their matter, and the ruling principles of these men were the same. But to the others, how many things had they to care for, and to how many things were they slaves to? This is the chief thing. Do not be not perturbed, for all things are according to the nature of the universal, and in a little time you will be nobody and nowhere, like Hadrian and Augustus. In the next place, having fixed your eyes steadily on your business, look at it, and at the same time remember that it is your duty to be a good man, and what man's nature demands, do that without turning aside, and speak as it seems to you most just. Only let it be with a good disposition and with modesty and without hypocrisy. The nature of the universal has this work to do, to remove the things, to change them, to take them away, and to carry them. All things are change, yet we need not fear anything new. All things are familiar to us, but the distribution of them still remains the same. Every nature is contented with itself when it goes on its way well, and a rational nature goes on its way well when in its thoughts contain nothing false or uncertain, and when it directs its movements to social acts only, and when it confines its desires and aversions to the things which are in its power, and when it is satisfied with everything that is assigned to it by the common nature. For of this common nature every particular nature is a part, as the nature of the leaf is a part of the nature of the plant, except that in the plant the nature of the leaf is part of a nature which has no perception or reason, and is subject to be impeded. But the nature of a man is part of a nature which is not subject to impediments, and is intelligent and just, since it comes to everything in equal portions and according to its worth, time, substance, cause, activity, and incident. But examine not to discover that any one thing compared with any other single thing is equal in all respects, but by taking all the parts together of one thing and comparing them with all other parts together of another. You have no leisure or ability to read, but you have leisure or ability to check arrogance. You have leisure to be superior to pleasure and pain. You have leisure to be superior to love of fame, and not to be vexed at stupid and ungrateful people, not even to care for them. Let no man any longer hear you finding fault with the court life or with your own. Repentance is a kind of self-reproof for having neglected something useful, but that which is good must be something useful, and the perfect good man should look after it. But no such man should ever repent of having refused any sensual pleasure. Pleasure then is neither good nor useful. This thing, what in itself, in its own constitution? What is the substance and material, and what is the casual nature, and what is it doing in the world, and how long does it subsist? When you rise from sleep with reluctance, remember that it is according to your constitution and according to human nature to perform social acts. But sleeping is common also to irrational animals. But that which is according to each individual's nature is also more peculiarly its own and more suitable to its nature, and indeed also more agreeable. Constantly, and, if it be possible, on the occasion of every impression on the soul, apply to it the principles of psychic, of ethic, and of dialectic. Whatever man you meet with, immediately say to yourself, what opinions has this man about good and bad? Is it with respect to pleasure and pain and the causes of each, and with respect to fame and public disgrace, death and life? He has such and such opinions. It will seem nothing wonderful or strange to me if he does such and such things, and I shall bear in mind that he is compelled to do so. Remember that as it is a shame to be surprised if the fig tree produces figs, am I to be surprised if the world produces such and such things of which it is productive? And for the physician and the helmsman, it is a shame to be surprised if a man has a fever or if the wind is unfavorable. Remember that to change your opinion and to follow him who corrects your error is as consistent with freedom as it is to persist in your error. For it is your own, the activity which is exerted according to your own movement and judgment, and indeed according to your own understanding too. If a thing is in your own power, why do you do it? But if it is in the power of another, who do you blame? Chance or the gods? Both are foolish. You must blame nobody, for if you can, correct that which is the cause. But if you cannot do this, correct at least the thing itself. But if you cannot even do this, of what use is it to you to find fault? For nothing should be done without purpose. That which has died falls not out of the universe. If it stays here, it also changes here and is dissolved into the proper parts, which are elements of the universe and of yourself, and these two change. Everything exists for some end, a horse, a vine. Why do you wonder? Even the sun will say, I am for some purpose, and the rest of the gods will say the same. For what purpose are you then? To enjoy pleasure? See if common sense allows this. Nature has had regard in everything, no less to the end than to the beginning and the continuance, just like the man who throws up a ball. What good is it then for the ball to be thrown up, or harm for it to come down, or even to have fallen? And what good is it to the bubble while it holds together, or what harm when it bursts? The same may be said of a light also. Turn it inside out and see what kind of thing it is, and when it has grown old, what kind of thing it becomes, and when it is diseased. Short-lived are both the praiser and the praised, and the rememberer and the remembered, and all this in a small part of the world. Not even here do all agree. Attend to the matter which is before you, whether it is an opinion or an act or a word. You suffer this justly, for you choose rather to become good tomorrow than to be good today. Am I doing anything? And I do it with reference to the good of mankind. Does anything happen to me? I receive it and refer it to the gods and the source of all things, from which all that happens is derived. Such as bathing appears to you, oil, sweat, dirt, fill your water, all things disgusting. So is every part of life and everything. Those sharp-witted men, either seers or men inflated with pride, where are they? Some indeed have not been remembered even for a short time, and others have become the heroes of fables, and again others have disappeared even from fables. Remember this then, that this little compound, yourself, must either be dissolved, or your poor breath must be extinguished, or be removed and placed elsewhere. It is satisfaction to a man to do the proper works of a man. Now it is proper work of a man to be benevolent to his own kind, to despise the movements of the senses, to form a just judgment of plausible appearances, and to take a survey of the nature of the universe and of the things which happen in it. There are three relations between you and other things: the one to the body which surrounds you, the second to the divine cause from which all things come to all, and the third to those who live with you. Pain is either an evil to the body, then let the body say what it thinks of it, or to the soul, but it is in the power of the soul to maintain its own serenity and tranquility, and not to think that pain is an evil. For every judgment and movement and desire and aversion is within, and no evil ascends so high. Wipe out your imagination by often saying to yourself, "Now it is in my power to let no badness be in this soul, nor desire, nor any perturbation at all. But looking at all things, I see what is in their nature, and I use each according to its value. Remember this power which you have from nature. Speak both in the Senate and to every man, whoever he may be, appropriately, not with any pretentiousness. Use plain discourse. Courts, wives, daughters, descendants, ancestors, sisters, kinsmen, intimates, friends, physicians, and sacrificing priests are dead. Then turn to the rest, not considering the death of a single man, but of the whole race, as of Pompeii, and that which is inscribed on the tombs, the last of a race. Then consider what trouble those before them have had, that they might leave a successor, and then that of necessity someone must be the last. It is your duty to order your life well in every single act, and if every act does its duty as far as is possible, be content, and no one is able to hinder you. But something external will stand in the way you say. Nothing will stand in the way of you acting justly and soberly and considerately. But perhaps some other active power will hinder me. Well, by acceptance of the hindrance and by being content to transfer your efforts to that which is allowed, another opportunity of action is immediately put before you in the place of that which was hindered, and one which will adapt itself to this ordering of which we are speaking. Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance, and be ready to let it go. If you did ever see a hand cut off, or a foot, or a head lying anywhere apart from the rest of the body, is similar to a man who is not content with what happens and separates himself from others, or does anything unsocial. Suppose that you have detached yourself from the natural unity, for you was made by nature apart, but now you have cut yourself off. Yet here there is in this beautiful provision that it is in your power again to unite yourself. God has allowed this to no other part, after it has been separated and cut apart, to come together again. But consider the kindness by which he is distinguished man, for he has put it in his power not to be separated at all from the universal. And when he has been separated, he has allowed him to return and to be united and to resume his place as a part. As the nature of the universal has given to every rational being all the other powers that it has, so we have received from it this this power also. For as the universal nature converts and fixes in its predestined place everything which stands in the way and opposes it, and makes such things a part of itself, so also the rational animal is able to make every hindrance its own material, and to use it for such purposes as it may have designed. Do not disturb yourself by thinking of the whole of your life. Don't let your thoughts at once embrace all the various troubles which you may expect to befall you, but on every occasion ask yourself, what is there in this which is intolerable and past bearing? You will be ashamed to confess. In the next place, remember that neither the future nor the past pains you, but only the present. But this is reduced to a very little, if you only contain it. You should scold your mind if it is unable to hold out against even this. If the dead were conscious, would they be pleased? And if they were pleased, would that make them immortal? Was it not in the order of destiny that these persons too should first become old women and old men and then die? What then should those do after these were dead? All this is foul smell and blood in a bag. If you can see sharp, look and judge wisely, says the philosopher. In the constitution of the rational animal, I see no virtue which is opposed to justice, but I see a virtue which is opposed to love of pleasure, and that is temperance. If you take away your opinion about that which appears to give you pain, you yourself stand in perfect security. Who is the self? The reason. But I am not reason. Be it so. Let then the reason itself not trouble itself. But if any other part of you suffers, let it have its own opinion about itself. Hindrance to the perceptions of sense is an evil to the human nature. Hindrance to the desires is equally an evil to the animal nature, and something else also is equally an impediment and an evil to the constitution of plants. So then, that which is a hindrance to the intelligence is an evil to the intelligent nature. Apply all these things then to yourself. Does pain or sensuous pleasure affect you? The senses will look to that. Has any obstacle opposed you in your efforts towards an object? If indeed you were making this effort absolutely, unconditionally, or without any reservation, certainly this obstacle is an evil to you considered as a rational animal. But if you take into consideration the usual course of things, you have not been injured or even impeded. The things, however, which are proper to the understanding cannot be used to impede, for neither fire, nor iron, nor tyrant, nor abuse touches it in any way. When it has been made a sphere, it continues a sphere. It is not fit that I should give myself pain, for I have never intentionally given pain even to another. Different things delight different people, but it is my delight to keep the ruling faculty sound without turning away either from any man or from any of the things which happen to men, but looking at and receiving all with welcoming eyes, and using everything according to its value. See that you secure this present time to yourself. For those who rather pursue fame after death do consider that the men of or of after time will be exactly such as those whom they cannot bear now, and both are mortal. And what is it in any way to you if these men of after time utter this or that sound, or have this or that opinion about you? Take me and cast me where you will, for there I shall keep my divine part tranquil, that is, content, if it can feel and act conformably to its proper constitution. Why should my soul be unhappy and worse than it was, depressed, shrinking, and frightened? What will you find which gives sufficient reason for this? Nothing can happen to any man which is not a human accident, nor to an ox which is not according to the nature of an ox, nor to a vine which is not according to the nature of a vine, nor to a stone which is not proper to a stone. If then there happens to be to each thing both what is usual and natural, why should you complain? For the common nature brings nothing which may be a natural for you. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. But if anything in your own disposition gives you pain, who hinders you from correcting your opinion? And even if you were pained because you are not doing some particular thing which seems to you to be right, why do you not act rather than complain? But you say an impossible obstacle is in the way? Do not be grieved then, for the cause of it not changing doesn't fall on you. But it is not worthwhile to live if this cannot be changed. Take your departure then from life contentedly, just as he who dies in full activity, and well pleased too with the things which are obstacles. Remember that the ruling faculty is invincible. When self collected, it is satisfied with itself. If it does nothing which it does not choose to do, even if it resists its stubbornness, what then will it be when it forms a judgment about anything aided by reason and deliberately? Therefore, the mind which is free from passions is a fortress, for man has nothing more secure to which he can seek refuge, and his future is impregnable. He then who has not seen this is an ignorant man, but he who has seen it and does not go to this refuge is unhappy. Say nothing more to yourselves than what the first appearances report. Suppose that it has been reported to you that a certain person speaks ill of you. This has been reported, but it is not but it has not injured you. I see that my child is sick. I see he is sick, but is he in danger? This I do not see. Thus then, always abide by the first appearances, and add nothing yourself from within, and then nothing happens to you. Or rather add something, if you are like a man who believes he knows everything that happens in the world. A cucumber is bitter. Throw it away. This is enough. Do not add. And why are such things made in the world? For you will be ridiculed by a man who is acquainted with nature, as you would be ridiculed by a carpenter and shoemaker if you did find fault, because you see in their workshop shavings and cuttings from the things which they make, and yet they have places into which they can throw these shavings and cuttings. The universal nature has no external space, but the wondrous part of her art is that though she has circumscribed herself, everything within her which appears to decay and to grow old and to be useless, she changes into herself, and again makes other new things from these, so that she requires neither substance from without nor wants to place into a place into which she may cast that which decays. She is content then with her own space and her own matter and her own art. Neither is in your actions be sluggish, or nor in your conversation without method, nor wandering in your thoughts, nor let there be in your soul inward disagreement, nor external unrestraint, nor in life be so busy as to have no leisure. Suppose that men kill you, cut you in pieces, curse you. What then can these things do to prevent your mind from remaining pure, wise, sober, just? For instance, if a man should stand by a transparent, pure spring and curse it, the spring never ceases sending up potable water. And if he should cast clay into it or filth, it will speedily disperse them and wash them out, and will not be at all polluted. How then shall you possess a perpetual fountain and not a mere well? By forming yourself hourly to freedom, joined with contentment, simplicity, and modesty. He who does not know what the world is does not know where he is, and he who does not know for what purpose the world exists does not know who he is, nor what the world is. But he who has failed in any one of these things could not even say for what purpose he exists himself. What then do you think of him who seeks the praise of those who applaud, of men who know not either where they are or who they are? Do you wish to be praised by a man who curses himself every hour? Would you wish to please a man who does not please himself? Does a man please himself who repents of nearly everything that he does? No longer let your breathing only act in concert with the air which surrounds you, but let your intelligence also now be in harmony with the intelligence which embraces all things. For the intelligent power is no less diffused in all parts and pervades all things, for him who is willing to draw it to him. Generally, wickedness does no harm at all to the universe, and particularly the wickedness of one man does no harm to another. It can never be harmful to him who has it in his power to be released from it as soon as he shall choose. To my own free will, the free will of my neighbour is just as indifferent as the poor breath and flesh. For though we are made especially for the sake of one another, still the ruling power of each of us has its own office, and for otherwise my neighbour's wickedness should be my harm, which God has not willed, in order that my unhappiness may not depend on another. The sun appears to be poured down and in all directions. Indeed, it is diffused, yet it is not unrestrained. For this diffusion is extension. Accordingly, its rays are called extensions because they are extended. But one may judge what kind of a thing a ray is if he looks at the sun's light passing through a narrow opening into the darkened room, for it is extended in a line, and as it were is divided when it meets with any solid body which stands in the way and intercepts the air beyond. But there the light remains fixed and does not glide or fall off. Such then ought to be the outpouring and diffusion of the understanding, and it should in no way be unrestrained, but an extension, and it should make no violent collision with the obstacles which are in its way, or fall down, but be fixed and enlighten that which receives it. He who fears death either fears the loss of sensation or a different kind of sensation. But if you shall have no sensation, neither will you feel any harm. And if you shall require another kind of sensation, you will be a different kind of a living being, and you will not cease to live. Men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then to bear with them. In one way, an arrow moves, in another way, the mind. The mind, indeed, both when it exercises caution and when it is employed about inquiry, moves straight onward to its object. Enter into every man's ruling faculty, and also let every other man enter into mine. As we come to the end of Book 8, it becomes clear that Marcus is doing what Marcus is doing here is not simply writing thoughts, but actively correcting himself. This is a man in a position of immense power, yet he is not distracted by status or consumed by ego. Instead, he is focused on refining his own mind, holding himself to a higher standard, and ensuring that his actions remain aligned with his values. One of the most striking aspects of this book is the refusal to tolerate excuses. Marcus does not allow himself to hide behind circumstance, nor does he justify inaction through complexity. He continually brings himself back to simplicity, asking what is necessary, what is within his control, and what must be done now rather than later. This raises an important question for us to consider. How often do we complicate our own lives unnecessarily? How often do we delay action by overthinking or avoid responsibility by focusing on things beyond our control? There's a tendency to believe that change requires perfect conditions, yet Marcus reminds us that the present moment is always sufficient to begin. Another key reflection lies in the way he approaches adversity. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles, he treats them as opportunities to practice discipline, patience, and clarity. This shift in perspective transforms difficulty into something useful, something that contributes to growth rather than hindering it. It is also worth considering the role of self-accountability in our own lives. Marcus does not wait for external correction. He creates it internally. He observes his own thoughts, questions his own reactions, and adjusts his behavior accordingly. This level of awareness is not easy to maintain, but it is essential to everyone seeking to live with intention. The theme of morality, although subtle, carries significant weight here. When you truly accept that time is finite, it changes how you approach each day. It becomes harder to justify wasted hours, unnecessary conflict, or unfulfilled potential. Instead, there is a quiet urgency that encourages you to act, to contribute, and to become more aligned with what you are capable of being. Perhaps the most powerful takeaway from Book 8 is the idea that transformation is not a single event, but a continuous process. It is built through repeated decisions, consistent effort, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. There's no final destination where discipline is no longer required. Rather, it becomes a way of living, something that is practiced daily. So, as you leave this stream tonight, take a moment to reflect honestly on where you are. Consider where you may be delaying action, where you might be overcomplicating things, and where you are allowing external circumstances to dictate your internal state. Then ask yourself what small immediate step you can take to move closer to alignment, because ultimately the message of book 8 is simple. Even if it is not easy, stop waiting, stop hesitating, and begin. If something in this live stream resonated with you, if it challenged your thinking or gave you a sense of clarity, then take a moment to support the channel, like the stream, subscribe so that you can continue this journey with us, and share this with someone who is ready to grow. Make the decision to stay consistent, because real change does not come from a single moment of inspiration. It comes from returning to those ideas again and again, applying them, refining them, and allowing them to shape how you live. Thank you for being here. I hope you all have a good weekend, and thank you for choosing to engage with something meaningful. Until next week, remain disciplined, stay aware, continue becoming who you are meant to be. I am Michael Reeds, and this has been Michael Reeds. Good night.